What's going on, everybody? My name's Thomas from milezero.racers.
I'm Angelo.
And today we're gonna try to discover one question, and that is, could the 1975 Honda CB750 compare or come even close to a 2008 Harley Dyna Super Glide Custom?
Maybe we'll figure it out, maybe we won't, but we argue about it all the time, so we figured why not make a video on it.
So we're gonna have some fun. We hope you guys are ready for this journey, and we cannot wait for all your feedback down below to where we can potentially make a further video on this whole concept and debate. This is my absolute dream daily rider, and this is absolutely his dream daily rider. And I'm sure there's a ton of you out there that might feel the same, whether it's exactly a CB750 or just categorized as the vintage motorcycle, or whether it's exactly this Dyna Harley or just another Harley in general or something similar. So we're gonna unpack this episode right now, and we're gonna roll the intro and get right into it. On paper, guys, it is no secret that these bikes could not be more different. This Honda was built in the golden age of motorcycling, the 70s, where gas was cheap and everyone was just itching to be on two wheels. And it's no secret that the CB750 is what started the superbike craze with its inline-4 air-cooled engine and insane reliability of its time.
Fast forward to 2008, still 17 years old from today, but modern compared to a 75 CB750. This 08 Super Glide comes with the 96 cubic inch engine, fuel injected, more modern suspension, and just that classic Harley sound.
So I think it's safe to say that there is a complete barrier to entry difference between this 1975 Honda CB750 and this 2008 Harley Dyna Super Glide Custom. It's not only a much higher starting point to actually just become an owner, but it also is,
especially as a first bike.
Especially as
we gotta get that out of the way too, because this wasn't our first bike. That wasn't his first bike.
All this to say, it is a much different beast to acquire and modify for your taste or liking a Harley compared to a Honda CB750, for example.
Yeah.
And additionally, the way you modify both of these could be completely different.
100%.
Right? A CB750 is anywhere from $1,000 to $3,000 to purchase and own. People like to cafe these out, right? So you're gonna strip them down, cut up the frame, chop it up. It is more of that person looking for that winter build, versus Harley's gonna offer a lot more bolt-on options that are plug and play and ready to just either be your performance upgrade or style upgrade that is to your liking. Is that fair? So completely different eras, Angelo. But at the end of the day, and at their heart and core, at the times when they were released, they were both the working man's motorcycle, right?
Yep.
Like,
right.
You know, one's refined and far more simple, and one, in essence, is a little bit more rebellious and modern in its own way,
right,
packing the punches. But there's still a few questions that underlay, and one in particular is, which one has aged better, right? And this is a 2008, 33 years newer than the CB750,
right,
but still 17 or so years old from the day that we stand here today filming this. One thing both of these motorcycles have in common, and what I think they both have in common, is their mod platforms. And regardless Harley or Honda CB750, riders and owners love making them their own.
And everybody's got a budget.
Yeah.
So I hear what you're saying, and I totally agree, but I don't think the approach could be any more different. And what I mean by that is, with the Dyna, it's performance everything. Suspension, tuners, exhaust, fairings, tires, brakes, air intakes. You could spend $5 grand before you even realize it, which is why it took me 7 years to attain and achieve my goal.
Hey, he doesn't want to hear it. So then, is it kind of fair to say, like, the Harley scene is almost performance through just dollars?
Kind of a good way to put it.
On the contrary, with the CB, it really just comes down to simplicity. You know, you upgrade the carburetors, you go through and put things on, you put things like an electronic ignition on to alleviate maintenance schedules. You go through, update tires, rebuild front forks and suspensions, but at the end of the day, you buy it because it is what it is. Bring it back to its glorious originality, or you're the personality type to chop it and build it into something like a cafe racer. But with the CB, it's a lot simpler at the end of the day. You upgrade things like your carburetors or simply just rebuild them. You rebuild your front forks, upgrade potentially the points to electronic ignition for less maintenance on your schedule. Maybe wrap modern tires on this thing and you're off for the races. For probably under $1,000 in terms of just parts to get it back to its original glory of riding, running, and reliable condition.
I guess your claim is valid. Dyna does technically buy performance. Now, yes, they're bolt-on parts. I still installed them myself, so I get the nostalgic feeling of working on a motorcycle. Always have. There is a different feel when you're buying your performance rather than tinkering on your performance.
And that's where I think the Honda, in a way, earns versus buys.
Right. If you want to up your horsepower just a little bit, you could tune your carbs and you could get some new jets. It's only $4, but you got to take your carburetors off and take them apart and use the little screws and all the gaskets.
There's a difference between the level of ownership, interest, and willingness
and meticulousness
to pursue this. And one thing I want to make clear, a lot of times when people say, oh, you should buy a vintage motorcycle, I feel like a lot of times people are super hesitant to do so because they think since they're from the 70s, they must be just unreliable, old, clapped out machines that you're always gonna have to be tinkering on the side of the road with. When in retrospect, if you're willing to just put in a little bit of earned time, just clock in for a little bit, a few nights during the week, just to go through and do the general maintenance. And if you're a newbie at it, it is so simple because the amount of YouTube videos and a simple manual. And this bike, once all said and done and you have that willpower to just go through and work on your bike a little bit, it is arguably just as reliable, if not more reliable than your Harley or modern bike that you buy. Because at the end of the day, if you break down on the side of the road, it can only be a few things.
True. And having a brand new bike doesn't mean you won't get a flat tire.
Yeah.
Anything can happen.
So it's really no secret that, yeah, both benefit from mods.
Yeah.
What wouldn't? And it's not so much to make them faster, it's more of just what is your intention behind it? Is it more reliability or is it more just straight up performance or a mixture of both? Ultimately, it's about changing the ride to be what you want it to be, all said and done.
Which definitely proves our point. Newer doesn't always necessarily mean better.
At the end of the day, neither of these are new.
No, not at all. So now let's move on to the section where we're gonna talk about the similarities that these bikes definitely share.
And after we discussed it before making this video, we were actually surprised at how similar these actually are. Although they look and definitely sound completely different, they actually share a lot, and we're going to unpack everything that we discovered as a similarity.
So for example, they're both equally reliable, they're both equally as smooth on the road, and definitely fully capable of being daily drivers.
Guys, if you really think about this, how many people have owned, bought, and ridden Dyna Harleys across the country throughout the span since these have been invented?
Not as much as geezer glides, but you know, the Dynas still hold their own.
What I'm getting at here is the Honda CB platform, or just vintage motorcycles back in the day, you look at it today and you're like, no shit, people put 100,000 miles on these things, touring up to Alaska, down to California, over to New York, down to Texas, up to Nebraska, like it was nothing.
Yeah.
And that's where we sit here today and have absolutely no excuses to hop on the saddle and go, regardless of the bike you're on and regardless of how new or old it may be, because depending on what you get, they both can be super reliable, and depending on your budget, you can get into a classic Honda or Kawasaki or Suzuki of this 4-cylinder inline 4 base, which was invented by the Honda, or you can hop on the V-twin classic Harley from any year if your budget's a little bit more, and still be reliable, safe, and fun.
Yep. And they both have the same get on and go attitude. Like, you don't have to baby these bikes. You can hop on these things and go cross country tomorrow. Just make sure you got a fresh oil change at least, I guess, but
you can
just go for it.
You can redline this and rev it all the way up to 10 grand, or you can just, you know,
They were built for fun and reliability. They have both of those characteristics, 100%.
That's where the Honda CB750 was coined the first ever superbike, and is arguably the bike that paved the way to all of these modern superbikes like the GSXR 750s and the 1000s and the ZX6Rs that you see on the road today. Angelo, now that we've covered a lot of the similarities in terms of the experience that you've had on that and the experience I've had on this, and then we both have experienced each of our bikes, and discovered these things through time on the saddle. We want to touch on the clear, obvious differences and also some of the differences that we've unpacked through our experience as well.
We want to kick this off with one of the major ones and one of the obvious ones, the personalities.
And it's not only the personality differences between this bike and this bike, but I believe that it's the personality difference of the rider's interest as well.
Yeah.
You wake up every day wanting to turn this key on.
And press that button.
I wake up every day and want to kick-start this bike.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm not saying that you might not want to do that or I might not want to do that, but this fuels me and that fuels you. There's nothing wrong with that, but that's just a clear difference in the ownership and the physical style and bike is the personality split right down the middle. It is as clear difference and contrast as it possibly gets.
Yeah, so like in my eyes, this Dyna is like a modern muscle car. I love all motorcycles, truly, but there's nothing better for me than getting on this bike, listening to that thunderheader roar. I could hear the induction in the air filter, which I also love. Oh wait, let's see, what else? Feeling this thing vibrate and just smooth through all the gears. It's just, there's nothing like it. Having the hard mounted handlebars as well, that you could really feel the bike with that. So all in all, it's like that modern car, like a muscle car. It gives you that big torque, big sound, you could feel it all. And that's why I like this bike.
And that's where I think the Honda CB, why I love it so much, is it's just that it carries that vintage characteristic and vintage history. To me, history plays a lot in the bike that I'm riding and the feeling I get when I'm cruising around town. One thing I want to point out is, yes, it's an inline four, and there's inline fours roaring and screaming the streets every night when you hear it out the window on the highway and you're like, wow, I hope that guy's okay. And the difference here is this bike, when you're riding down, and not only that character that you feel and you're riding that history, it's not a bike you see on the road every day. I love that aspect. I love being different. This bike sounds different. It's so unique, especially 40 years later, that people either remember that sound growing up for the older folks, and or for the younger guys, they're like, whoa, I've never heard something like that in my life. I didn't know a motorcycle could sound like that. And especially when you do some mods to the exhaust, you can really make these things high-pitched, but you also can have that deep four-cylinder rumble as well. Merging everything we said together, yes, the Dyna has a lot more power than the CB750. Yours is how many cc's? 1,500?
1,500.
And this is 750 cc's. Just because, yes, this has more power, that doesn't mean the Honda's lacking power. It's just a different delivery point. But to bring that all together, one major difference between the two is the weight and stability at higher speeds. Obviously, the Harley is going to feel a lot more planted than this old dinky motorcycle. And I'm not saying that this bike isn't capable of doing 100 and keeping up with the modern traffic speeds of today's society.
Definitely.
However, you have to get used to it before you just do it on the Harley, where you're just going to be planted. So that's where, yes, this being a 2008 and 33 some odd years younger than this CB750, you're naturally going to get that upgrade in technology throughout the years of motorcycling development and innovation.
I mean, my forks alone are double the size of yours.
Right.
So just stuff like that.
And so if you guys are curious, on a side note here, we do build these CB750s to become full flagship modernized versions of the infamous CB750. We call it and coined it the Clubsport CB750. Those bikes, on the other hand, feel completely planted because we swap the front ends to modern upside down forks from modern sport bikes, and we go through and do wider rims and tires, and do all these engine mods and lighten it up, which really plants them and gives it a completely different experience.
Right.
But it takes away that ability to go cross country and the practicality of the original version. But at the end of the day, they're both stable, fast, reliable, and that's really all that matters.
I mean, it's a nimble bike you could rip around town, maybe pop a couple wheelies here and there. All this to say, Drop a comment below on what your personality is or what your preference is.
One thing that we really wanted to touch on was budget. We're gonna go through on each respective bike and tell you guys how much we bought it for, the amount of money we put into them in terms of maintenance and or performance mods, and break them down in their individual format, and then pose the question,
what's your budget and what's your preference?
This bike was $23. I found it in a barn, hadn't been running since 1912, and no, okay. I bought this bike for more than I usually buy vintage bikes for, but my reasoning behind buying this bike was I wanted a good, clean platform to turn into my daily rider. I bought this motorcycle for $2,600, and for a whole entire riding season, I didn't absolutely touch it. Didn't do an ounce of maintenance, didn't do an ounce of anything. I just got on it, turned the key, and rode it. And it was reliable every single time. However, last winter, I went through and did the full general maintenance. Wheel bearings, brand new tires, rebuilt the front forks, worked out a few of the electrical gremlins, upgraded the points to an electronic ignition so I don't have to do as much maintenance on the adjustment of points. Went through, adjusted the valves, cleaned and sunk the carbs, and that's about it. And that might sound like a lot, that might sound intimidating. I do this for a living, so it's a bit easier for me to justify the time versus cost. However, all in all, I think I invested around $390 in terms of maintenance for this bike to be literally turnkey every single time, brand new every single time. Now, a little bit of specifics of this bike. It is a 736cc powered motor, inline 4. It comes stock with a 4-1. I actually bought this bike, luckily, with a slip-on that is aftermarket. I have the stock pipe, but for me, I'm a firm believer in loud pipes save lives. That's where we ended up drilling out the baffling in this, and it gives a great little rumble, but also not droney at highway speeds, which is what I like to do mostly with this bike. Bop around town and ride it whatever distance is ahead. And a really crazy thing about vintage bikes, guys, is the cost to get into them. But not only that, a lot of times you can get into a really well-represented vintage motorcycle for a lot of times with less than 10,000 miles, where it's pretty much brand new still. This is an example of that. I bought it for $2,600. Pretty much anyone can purchase that at that price point. This bike only has 12,600 miles on it. Now this bike also comes in at 610 pounds. So if you're someone that's nervous about a heavy bike, yeah, it's on the heavier side, but it's also not like super intimidating like a Harley may be or seem on the outside. This bike is super comfy, it's super fun to ride, and it has power in every RPM range.
All right, so this is my 2008 Harley Davidson Super Glide Custom. When I bought this bike, it was fully stock. It had the stock handlebars, front controls, stock pipe. I did a few things over the years to make it what I wanted it, and now it is exactly how I always imagined. I've had it for 6 years now, and I wanted to style it after the show Sons of Anarchy, so that's a West Coast club style motorcycle build. That would be Thunderheader exhaust. I put a Vance & Hines air intake on it. It is tuned. I have a Saddleman seat. That's a little bit different, but that was a game changer for comfort purposes. Hard mount polyurethane bushings in the handlebars. These are Wild Ones chubby handlebars, so same thing. They're like drag T-bars, no pullback. West Coast style fairing, straight from the show. It's Arlen Ness. Did mid controls, brake pads. That's about it. Other than that, it's still stock. I have these Viking bags on it. Love those. And the only other thing that's different on this bike that I didn't do, but it does modernize it a bit more, is the speedometer and tach. This is not the stock one that came on this bike from 2008. I bought this bike for $8,000, I believe, about 7 years ago. I think this is my 7th season riding on it. And over the span of 7 years, I've slowly but surely budgeted into little modifications to make it this full complete bike. Just this year alone, I finally got the Thunderheader exhaust, which I wanted since day one, but it was way too expensive. The exhaust combo with the air intake was about $2,000, maybe a little bit more. On top of that, I did the handlebars first. That was about $300. The fairing was about $250. This year also I got the seat, so I finally got rid of the stock seat. This was about $500. The mid controls I also wanted since day one, but I didn't want to go through the process because I had to take the entire primary off, get all behind there just to put linkage in. So I had put that off for years, but finally we got it done this year. Those were about $300. I think these bags were about $300. So all in all, the bike was $8,000. I think I have about 4,000 into it over the past 7 years. Yeah, so roughly all in all total cost was maybe like $12,000 plus or minus. So after all this, we beg the question, Thomas, viewers, can your 1975 CB750 compare to my 2008 Harley Davidson?
After unpacking this, at the end of the day, guys, my preference will always say yes. And you know, in a lot of ways, it lacks what this Harley provides and its performance provides of its age and style that it possesses.
It's the experience of the ride.
And it's the experience of the ride. I don't have to bear the huge weight of cost invested either. Maintenance costs are far lower than maintenance costs on this. And I'm not to scare anyone away from getting a bike like this, but it's just the sheer fact. And honestly, when you go down the road, you get the same feeling of being alive and everything that a motorcycle provides. I would also like to put the cherry on top by saying, I just think this bike has a lot more soul just due to the history and uniqueness that it has 40 plus years later going down the road in today's day.
Well, maybe I think we got to switch our perspectives here a little bit, because I don't think better is actually the point anymore. Maybe it's a lot simpler. Maybe it's just about what feels good for you.
This is what we wanted to have fun talking about and unpacking. We hope you've enjoyed watching this video. If you're new here, consider subscribing, because we're going to do a lot of these style videos coming up in the future. And also we have some brand new Clubsport builds, which are our top tier full frame up restorations and customized CB750 builds. And in addition to that, we have a 1998 E36 M3 GT inspired build that's coming your way this winter. And we have a lot of cool mods going into that bike, into that car. But yeah, guys, so let us know what you think down in the comments about what we unpacked in this episode. If you guys want to throw down some of your suggestions / opinions, maybe it'll spark the opportunity for us to make another episode on this, maybe even go into a deeper dive. And with that, guys, thank you for always watching. And if you're new here, consider subscribing. We'd really appreciate it. And if you're watching here and you're a continued viewer, give this video a thumbs up and throw on those notification bells, as we have a sick lineup of videos dropping over the next few months and beyond, as we leave every episode with this little message: never stop, never settle, always push forward, and a lot of great things can happen along the way. With that, guys, thanks for being dope. We'll catch you in the next episode.